Este es su programa Café con Leche, la voz de los latinos en América. Estamos transmitiendo desde hermosa 1470 AM, 96.9 FM y también en Facebook Live y YouTube. Les habla Lilia Galindo, me acompaña Thomas Elias. Él es un periodista que escribe en 90 y tantos periódicos en California y aquí en el Valle del Antílope 2 veces a la semana. Good morning, Tom. How are you?
Good morning. I'm very well, but there's a lot of people in our state who are not, and I want to talk a little bit about them today. I want to talk, if it's okay with you, about the homeless and the rain, because the rainstorm has exposed, the rainstorms of the last few weeks have exposed the complete failure of the homeless programs we have in California. You know, the state budget includes $10 billion this year for homeless and another few billion next year, even though there's been some cuts in it. It's still going to be a few billion more in next year's budget that Governor Newsom proposed the other day. And we saw on, we've been seeing all through January with the heavy rains and the cold, that these programs just aren't accomplishing much. The approach is wrong somehow. We have more homeless today by about 22,000 than we did before the pandemic. We're up to 172,000 in California, and many of them are just absolutely miserable in the rains that we have now.
Okay, let me translate, ¿eh? Bueno, dice, quiero hablar el día de hoy de todos los problemas que se han manifestado con la lluvia que hemos tenido tan fuertes, que han expuesto la situación de las personas que no tienen hogar, y esto de las lluvias tan fuertes se ha realmente exhibido cuál es el problema. Y es preocupante porque se han destinado $10 billones para atender este problema, sin embargo no se ha resuelto porque no se ha tomado las medidas adecuadas. El gobernador Newsom está proponiendo en su presupuesto otros 2 billones adicionales, pero el número de personas que están sin hogar asciende a 22,000, así es que es una cuestión muy difícil. What do you think is the problem then?
Well, the problem is that the money isn't getting spent and that the ideas are not creative enough in dealing with it. But if you want to see exactly what the problem is today, there's a YouTube video out. Unfortunately, I don't think I can post it right now, what the link is to that video, but I can send it to you if you want later on, Lilia.
Sure.
It was shot in Santa Monica on the morning, in the early morning hours between 1 and 4 a.m. on January 5th, when there were heavy rains and it was very cold, probably the coldest day of the year so far. And you see in this picture, in this YouTube video, you should see people huddled under soaking blankets, and you see people in barely covered alcoves that lead to building entrances. You see people in cardboard boxes. You see people lying on sidewalks, and the puddles around them, around their sleeping bags, are about an inch or two high, and nobody does anything about it. The city of Santa Monica, for instance, where this was filmed, has budgeted $42 million for homeless services. And that morning, that overnight, was the time when the homeless needed services more than any other time. And nobody was providing anything. They weren't even giving them hot chocolate. Something's really wrong. We need to do something different to provide housing for all these people. In Los Angeles alone, we have 56,000 homeless. That's Los Angeles City. The county has many more, if you add it all up. And yet, nothing is really being done about it. The politicians talk wonderfully about how much they're going to do, but they really haven't done much.
Bueno, nos está hablando, dice, cómo no se ha resuelto este problema. Dice, miren, les quiero compartir un video que se expuso. Este fue filmado la ciudad de Santa Mónica de 1 a 4 de la mañana. El día 5 de enero, que era el día más frío que se ha registrado y con muchísima lluvia. Dice, había tantísimas personas las estaban filmando, a los que estaban sin hogar, ahí tapándose con cobijas, con cajas de cartón, ahí tirados acostados en las banquetas. Dice, cuando había incluso varias, como 2 pulgadas de lluvia, tenían sus bolsas para dormir, pero todo esto era insuficiente, por supuesto, y no había nadie que les diera ningún servicio. Dice, la ciudad de Santa Mónica tiene en su presupuesto $42 millones para los servicios y nada fue hecho cuando más se necesitaba. Dice, ni siquiera una taza de chocolate caliente se les ofreció, absolutamente nada. Dice, y el problema de los homeless, dice, a pesar de que hay mucho dinero, pues no se están invirtiendo de la manera que se requieren, no hay suficiente imaginación para resolver el problema. Dice, hay aproximadamente 56,000 personas que no tienen hogar en la ciudad de Los Ángeles, aparte de los que están en el condado de Los Ángeles, y nada se ha hecho.
Yeah, so one state assessment within the last week has shown that it would take $300 billion to solve the homeless problem. But there's other problems involved in that. They're talking about constructing all these new units. There aren't enough construction workers to do all that work. There's a shortage of construction workers right now. If you try to do a private project, it's hard to find someone to do it. Besides that, it costs an average of $830,000 right now to build one bedroom apartment, one unit in California today. So $300 million would build about 3,600 one-bedroom units. And that's nowhere near enough to permanently shelter the people that are homeless today, let alone the ones who will come here when it becomes known that we're providing housing for people. And yet, hotels and motels didn't solve the problem either when the state and local governments were buying them up under Operation Latchkey. You remember during the height of the coronavirus pandemic. So we need to do something different. We need some new thinking. And my thought is that we have these millions, we have hundreds of millions of square feet of empty office space and empty big box stores and empty mini malls that have failed since the pandemic. And the owners of these buildings really are losing money, and pretty soon the tax assessments will drop and the local governments will lose a lot of money and the schools will lose a lot of money. So we need to fill that up. And we should take some of this money that's allocated for the homeless, and we should buy up some of that empty office space, some of those empty stores, and we should convert it into housing. And we can make the units any size we want once we decide that we're going to tear down what's in those buildings now. We don't tear the buildings down, we leave the buildings, but we change the way things are set up inside the buildings, put in some new plumbing, some new electric, and pretty soon you have many, many more units than you could actually build with the same money.
Very good. Very good idea. Bueno, dice, mire, hay aproximadamente 300 millones que se han destinado para resolver el problema de los que no tienen casa, pero dice, pero la construcción de unidades, pues en primer lugar hay una escasez de personas que ayudan en la construcción en estos momentos. O sea, los que trabajan en la construcción no se encuentran ni siquiera para construir una casa privada. El costo de esto, de cada habitación, sería de aproximadamente, de cada casa sería de aproximadamente $830,000, dice, lo que te construiría una casa con una recámara solamente, lo que hace que este dinero pues alcance para muy pocas viviendas construidas, que no va a resolver el problema de la cantidad de homeless, de la cantidad de homeless que se encuentran en la calle. Dice, la idea de proporcionarles los hoteles y los moteles tampoco trabajó en el pasado, así es que tenemos que crear nuevas cosas. Dice, yo a mí me gustaría proponer que todos los edificios que están vacíos, los mercados, todas las áreas que se han dejado, los malls que están vacíos y que no están ahorita produciendo nada y que los empleados, los dueños finalmente van a tener pérdidas, que sean utilizados para construir casas y así se le pueda proveer a todos, porque es muchísimo más barato hacer modificaciones a estos lugares para que se conviertan en viviendas y así nadie pierde y todo el mundo gana. Tom, we have one more minute.
Now, let me leave you with one thought. A lot of us tend to think of the homeless as mentally ill or suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, and there's some kind of human junk. We tend to think of the homeless. And there is a criminal element among them also. There's no question. But nobody deserves the kind of conditions that the homeless have been exposed to in these rains. And nobody has done anything about it. We're spending much more money, but we have many fewer homeless shelters now than we did before the pandemic. Something's really wrong. The approach has to change.
Dice, quiero decirles que aunque se considera que muchas de las personas que están sin casa tienen problemas de enfermedades mentales, son veteranos, por ejemplo, con post-traumatic disorder, dice, pero yo creo que nadie que no tiene casa se merece ese tipo de tratamiento. Y quiero decirles que dice que lo que sucede es que necesitamos cambiar nuestra manera, dice, porque ahora hay muchísimos menos homeless que había, no homeless, albergues que había antes de la pandemia. Entonces tenemos que revisar qué es lo que se está haciendo. Thank you, Tom. It was a great thing, and I hope that do you know, maybe also should be considered again to return to mental health places for people who is really severe, mentally ill severe, no?
Yeah, we haven't had that in California since Ronald Reagan did away with most of it in 1971. So it's been a long time since we've had a lot of mental hospitals.
Well, we have to go. Thank you so much. Hasta la vista.
Right.
Happy New Year.
Hasta la vista.